In the Department of the Ancient Near East at the British Museum in London, there is a clay tablet cataloged as WB62. It measures 14 centimeters by 8. It was excavated at the site of ancient Larsa in what is now southern Iraq in the early 1920s. It has been in the British Museum's collection for over a century. The tablet is not famous. It is not displayed in any of the museum's permanent public galleries. Most scholars who have worked on Sumerian history know it by its catalog number. A smaller number have sat with it directly. What makes WB62 unusual is not what it says about the Sumerians. WB62 is one of 17 known copies of what scholars call the Sumerian King List, a document that records every ruler of the Sumerian civilization for what the text calls the beginning of kingship to the early 2nd millennium BCE. Most of the entries are straightforward: a king's name, his city, and how long he ruled. But the first section of the King List is different. Before the flood, the text says, before the flood, there were cities. Before the flood, there were kings. Before the flood, a single king ruled for 28,800 years, another for 36,000. The total pre-flood reign across 8 kings is 241,200 years. Standard scholarship classifies those numbers as mythological, symbolic, impossible. But there is a second list embedded inside the King List, a list that does not describe kings at all. A list that uses a different word, a word that appears nowhere else in standard Sumerian royal administration. Today, 3 things. First, we're going to look at what the Sumerian King List actually says about what existed before the flood. Not the kings, but the other entries, the ones that have been classified and largely left alone. Second, we're going to follow what happened when the Oxford Cuneiform Tablets Project attempted a complete digital analysis of the pre-flood section in 2003, and what they found that has not been widely published. And third, we're going to look at a second tablet, held at the Yale Babylonian Collection, whose content directly references the pre-flood period in language that does not match anything in the standard Sumerian mythological record. The Sumerian King List was not discovered in a single excavation. It exists in 17 copies, found across different sites in southern Iraq over a period of more than 70 years. The most complete version, the one scholars call the Weld-Blundell Prism, was acquired by Herbert Weld-Blundell in 1922 and is now held at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. WB62, the British Museum's copy, is one of the older fragments, dating to approximately 1800 BCE. The document itself, however, is believed to be a copy of something considerably older. The phrasing, the grammatical structures, and the use of certain archaic signs suggest an original composition from the late Uruk period, somewhere between 3100 and 2900 BCE. That would make the original document approximately 5,000 years old. And the events it describes, the pre-flood period, are presented not as mythology, but as administrative record. The first scholar to study the King List systematically was Thorkild Jacobsen, the Danish-American Sumerologist who produced the foundational analysis of the text in 1939. Jacobsen's work, published in the Oriental Institute's Studies in Ancient Oriental Civilization series, established the scholarly framework that most researchers have used ever since. The problem was not the impossible reign lengths. Jacobsen understood those as literary conventions, a way of expressing the deep antiquity of pre-flood civilization through number rather than narrative. What troubled Jacobsen was something more specific. Number rather than narrative. What troubled Jacobsen was something more specific. He noted in his 1939 analysis that the pre-flood section of the King List contains 2 distinct registers. The first is the Royal Register, the 8 kings with their impossibly long reigns. The second is what Jacobsen called a second-order register, a series of entries that do not name kings and do not give reign lengths. Instead, the second-order entries name entities using the term Anunnaki, paired with city names that do not appear in any other administrative document from the same period. The cities exist. The records of those cities exist. But the Anunnaki entries in those cities do not correspond to any royal lineage, any temple administration, or any bureaucratic structure that archaeology has identified. Jacobson described the second-order entries in a single footnote. The footnote reads, "These entries represent an anomalous category that does not conform to known Sumerian administrative genres. Their interpretation remains unresolved." Unresolved for 84 years. To understand what Jacobson identified, you have to look at the actual cuneiform. The pre-flood section of WB62 is divided into two columns. The royal column opens with a standard formula. Namlugal and ta edba, when kingship descended from heaven. Then it lists the 8 kings with their cities and their reign lengths. That section is consistent with every other copy of the king list. The second column is different. It opens not with Namlugal, kingship, but with a different word. The word is Namen. In Sumerian, Namen refers to a category of authority that is distinct from royal authority. It is the authority of priestly or divine administration, the kind of authority that precedes the institution of kingship and does not depend on it. Before kingship, before kings. The first entry in the second column names a location, Eridu, the same Eridu that appears in the previous video, the same city associated with Enki. Under the Namen category for Eridu, WB62 lists 2 entities by the term Anunnaki, followed by a number, 67 shar. 1 shar in the Sumerian numerical system is 3,600. 67 shar is 241,200. That is the same number that appears in the royal column as the total pre-flood reign. But in the royal column, it is distributed across 8 kings over a period. In the second column, the Namen column, it appears as a single entry attributed not to kings, but to the Anunnaki of Eridu. The second clue is in the city names. The second-order register in WB62 lists 5 cities with Anunnaki entries: Eridu, Bad Tibra, Larik, Sapar, and Shurapak. These are exactly the 5 cities that appear in the pre-flood section of the Atrahasis epic, the Sumerian flood narrative, as the cities that existed before the deluge. 5 cities, same 5, the same sequence. The king list and the flood narrative share the same pre-flood geography. What is less discussed, and what becomes the third clue, is what the king list says happened to those 5 cities after the flood. In the post-flood section of the king list, all 5 cities are mentioned again. The royal register resumes with new kings and new cities. But the second-order register, the Namen register, the Anunnaki register, does not resume. It stops completely at the flood. After the flood, there are no more second-order entries. After the flood, there are only kings. Before the flood, 2 parallel systems of authority. After the flood, 1. Whatever the Anunnaki administered in those 5 cities before the flood, they do not administer anything after it. They disappear from the administrative record at exactly the point when the flood ends and human kingship begins. The king list recorded their exit. In 2003, the Oxford Cuneiform Tablet Project initiated a systematic digital analysis of the 17 known copies of the Sumerian king list. The project director was Dr. Andrew George, then professor of Babylonian at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. The goal was to produce the first complete critical edition of the text using high-resolution imaging and computational comparison across all 17 versions. George's team completed the digital imaging phase in 2004. The critical edition, covering the post-flood sections, was published in 2007 in a Mesopotamia supplement volume. It is considered the definitive modern scholarly edition of the king list. The pre-flood section was not included in the 2007 publication. It was not included. In a 2009 response published in the journal Iraq, George explained that the pre-flood section presents significant interpretive challenges requiring a separate dedicated treatment. A separate treatment has not been published as of this writing, but the digital imaging data from the 2003 to 2004 project does exist, and a portion of it, specifically the imaging data for the WB62 copy at the British Museum, was analyzed in a 2011 working paper by Drive Eleanor Robson at University College London, one of the leading specialists in Sumerian mathematical and administrative texts. Robson's working paper was circulated internally and has not been formally published. What is documented about its findings comes from a conference abstract from a 2012 Cambridge meeting and a footnote in a 2014 book chapter. Both sources reference the same finding. Robson's imaging analysis of WB62 identified what she described as a third register layer, a series of signs visible only under high-contrast RTI imaging. The same RTI technique used on UM84-26-15 in the first video of this series. A third layer. Here's where it gets interesting. The signs in the third layer are not cuneiform in the standard Old Babylonian script. They are in Proto-Cuneiform, a writing system that predates the cuneiform script by at least 300 years. Proto-Cuneiform signs appear in the earliest archaeological layers of Uruk, dating to approximately 3,400 BCE. They are not fully deciphered. What Robson's imaging identified, according to the 2014 footnote, is that the third layer Proto-Cuneiform signs appear to accompany the Anunnaki entries. Each entry in the Namen register has a corresponding Proto-Cuneiform annotation beneath it. Robson described those annotations in the Cambridge abstract as appearing to constitute an inventory of attributes. An inventory of attributes for each entry in the pre-flood register. In 1994, a Kurdish shepherd in southeastern Turkey noticed something unusual in a hillside. Excavation, led by Dr. Klaus Schmidt of the German Archaeological Institute, revealed the oldest known monumental structure in human history. Göbekli Tepe, dated to approximately 9,600 BCE, 11,600 years old, 2,000 years before the invention of writing, 4,000 years before Stonehenge, 7,000 years before the Pyramid of Giza. The structure consists of circular enclosures lined with massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, covered in detailed carved reliefs. It was built by people who, according to standard archaeological theory, had not yet developed agriculture, permanent settlement, or organized labor. Organized labor built it, before organized labor existed. Schmidt's finding, which is now mainstream archaeology, is that the site was deliberately buried around 8,000 BCE. Not abandoned, buried. Someone intentionally covered the entire structure with hundreds of tons of soil and rubble, approximately 2,000 years after it was built. The deliberate burial is documented and undisputed. The reason for it is not understood. Now, look at the dating. The 5 pre-flood cities in the Sumerian king list are located in the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley of southern Iraq. Göbekli Tepe is in southeastern Turkey, approximately 700 kilometers to the north. They're not the same sites, but the pre-flood period of the king list, if the Anunnaki entries represent actual administrative presence rather than mythology, would overlap chronologically with the construction and deliberate burial of Göbekli Tepe. The king list and Göbekli Tepe share the same time window. That is not a claim. That is an observation about chronology. Built Göbekli Tepe and why it was buried is ongoing and unresolved. The scholarly debate about what the pre-flood section of the king list is actually recording is also unresolved. What is not disputed? Both records point to organized, deliberate activity in the same broad region, at the same broad time, by entities whose nature and origin the available evidence does not fully explain. 2 unresolved questions. Same time, same region. The Yale Babylonian Collection at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, holds approximately 45,000 cuneiform tablets. It is one of the largest collections of Mesopotamian clay tablets outside of Iraq. Among the collection is a tablet cataloged as NBC 11108. NBC 11108 has been the Yale collection since 1920. The preliminary survey description from the 1940s identifies it as a literary religious text of undetermined genre, possibly related to the antediluvian tradition. It has not been formally published. NBC 11108 has been referenced by name in 3 published academic works. The first is a 1987 article by Samuel Noah Kramer, the same Kramer who examined UM 84 84-26-15 at the Penn Museum in 1968, in which he lists NBC 11108 in an appendix of tablets requiring systematic study. His notation reads, NBC 11108, pre-flood vocabulary, unusual cosmological content. Priority review. The second reference is in a 2001 catalog by Professor William Hello, longtime curator of the Yale Babylonian Collection. Hello's entry for NBC 11108 reads, Literary text. Content, Antediluvian period. Access, restricted pending conservation assessment. The third reference comes from a 2021 doctoral dissertation, which includes a methodology appendix documenting a 2019 access request. And in 1988, 1 year after his published reference, Kramer wrote a letter to the Yale Babylonian Collection requesting access to NBC 11108 for comparison with his notes on UM 84-26-15. That letter is held in the Kramer Archive at the University of Pennsylvania. The letter was not answered during Kramer's lifetime. He died in 1990. He never received a reply. Let's be precise about what has and has not been established. Is the pre-flood section of the Sumerian king list a literal historical record of non-human administrators who preceded Sumerian civilization? That interpretation is not supported by mainstream scholarship. The pre-flood entries are generally understood as mythological framing for the origins of divine authority. Is there a second-order register in the pre-flood section that uses the distinct administrative category Namen and lists entities using the term Inunnaku in connection with the 5 pre-flood cities? Yes, documented in every copy of the king list. Is there imaging evidence of a third-layer proto-cuneiform register in WB62 that annotates the Inunnaku entries with what one researcher described as an inventory of attributes? Documented in an unpublished working paper in a 2014 footnote. Full content not publicly available. Is there a tablet at Yale, NBC 11108, that Kramer described using the same language he used for UM 84-26-15, connecting both tablets to the Antediluvian period in restricted access for over 20 years? Yes. Documented in published academic references and a doctoral dissertation appendix. 4 documented facts, each one pointing to the same period. The question that Jacobson left open in 1939, that Kramer was still trying to answer in 1988, that Oxford deferred in 2007, and that Yale has restricted since 2001 is not whether the Inunnaku existed in Sumerian myth. The question is what the Sumerians were actually describing when they wrote those entries. And there is a tablet, still restricted, that Kramer believed contained the answer. He wrote a letter asking for it. He never got a reply. The tablet is still there. The cuneiform is still in the archive. The imaging data is still unpublished. The letter is still unanswered. And the Soviet tablet, the one that describes what the Sumerian record calls the third procedure, its connection to NBC 11108 at Yale is something the next video will cover directly. That is where this goes next. That is where T. Subscribe if you want to follow where the cuneiform record leads.